to the channel. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith recently made its way back to the big screen on May 25th to celebrate 20 years since the original release in theaters back in May 2005. The re-release has received major love from many, with record-breaking box office numbers reaching just over 25 million in the US and 17 million international, bringing the combined total of 42 million in just the first weekend. According to the Walt Disney Company, there are only 2 other releases to reach higher box office numbers, and that was from Star Wars A New Hope, the Special Edition, and The Lion King in 3D. Keep in mind that this is also considering that the film was only released in select theaters. This was a big first weekend, and it shows the love shared by Star Wars fans around the world. My initial thoughts were that the re-release would do okay, but seeing an almost full movie theater myself and the box office numbers shows that many of us were willing to go back and ready for the experience. Revenge of the Sith was also released in 4DX, which includes a multi-sensory experience for viewers combining the visuals with practical effects like motion seating and various environmental effects like wind, simulated snow, and even scents. Seeing social media posts from around the world of fans enjoying the experience just shows that the prequels are still enjoyed by so many around the world. There's a psychology and mythology that George's films brought to life on screen and allowed millions of people to follow a hero's journey and maybe find something inspiring along the way, and maybe even just things that we are trying to work on in our own lives. This was definitely a piece of George's writing. He brought you to unknown worlds across an unknown galaxy, while also portraying real-world political issues, events, emotion, and struggles that many of us can relate to. There's no doubt that Hayden Christensen himself, who portrayed Anakin in live action since the Attack of the Clones released in 2002, was also excited, and to see all the support for him during Celebration in Japan, and now for the release of Revenge of the Sith, which he didn't really get after the original release. At the time, the prequels seemed to be divided in the fandom, but I think that Episode 3 was an exception to those who didn't like Jar Jar and pod racing. To see Anakin become and transform into Darth Vader, an icon in movie history, I mean, who doesn't want to see that? In a recent interview with IGN, Hayden provided details of George's writing choices and also says, "I feel even more connected to Anakin now than I ever have because I've had more time to think about him and sort of try to understand him." It sounded like he was also interested in reprising the role if given the opportunity, specifically in the time during the Clone Wars, which we know is possible with the upcoming Season 2 of the Ahsoka series. Hayden and Samuel L. Jackson made special appearances at a fan event in the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. Sam Jackson also references his, quote, unexpected exit, and then with a pause from the crowd he says, "And just for the record, Mace lives." I think this more has to do with his own fan theory about the character. We know that he is also a huge fan and probably wants to see the character come back in some capacity so that he can portray the Jedi Master once again. With de-aging now being a possibility, there could also be some kind of prequel developed. I mean, there's plenty of canon and Legends material that could bring us to a more focused series about the character. It had been some time since watching Episode 3 from start to finish.
Hello there.
My experience of going back to see Revenge of the Sith was something that gave me a new perspective to the characters and the world George Lucas had created with what would be the final installment of the journey and transition of Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader, connecting the story to the original film, A New Hope, released in 1977. This might have been the best part, aside from the amount of action and raw emotion we get in this film. Vader taking his first mechanical breaths on screen from his cyborg suit is something unforgettable. Revenge of the Sith does have parallels and similarities to the feel of the Clone Wars animated series. It had much more of this feel to it than Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, and I believe this is because of the heavy use of CGI. But this made sense given that at least some of George's reasoning for even making the prequels was because of the limited capabilities and technology and what he could accomplish during the original trilogy. An example is Yoda's character, who he wanted to be able to portray in the right way during lightsaber combat, and you really need CGI to make that happen. The combat and fight scenes that were facilitated by stunt coordinator Nick Gillard was also another major highlight of the film. After seeing the behind-the-scenes training videos of Hayden and Ewan, really makes you appreciate what went into making those insanely choreographed lightsaber duels. John Williams' score is really what makes Revenge of the Sith something special. John really understands what is needed to create the emotional tension for a film that is riddled with death and tragedy. I could really feel Anakin and Obi-Wan's pain at the end of their duel on Mustafar.
Bring balance to the Force! Not leave it in darkness!
Episode 3 really hones in on tragedy, betrayal, and the rise of the Galactic Empire, and I have to say the film does this justice. Anakin's turn to the dark side to save Padme and Palpatine's unfolding plans to destroy the Jedi is much of what we see and how that unfolds. It's political, but gives you the action and adventure that I really enjoy the most about Star Wars. It's fair to say that Revenge of the Sith just may be the movie that many Star Wars fans can agree on, for the most part. The movie is now on track to reach a final box office of $1 billion worldwide. The linear story vision that connects the original trilogy to the prequel trilogy is something that will always be the basis of what Star Wars was meant to be. Anyways, this was basically just a few of my observations from the rewatch, and I had a really great time going out to the movie theater and seeing that with family. I'm curious, did you go see Revenge of the Sith? What were your favorite parts of the movie? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for joining, and may the Force be with you.